My name is Jeffrey McCrimon, and I was a Soul Train dancer from 1987 to 1994. I'm from Albany, Georgia. My dad was actually in the Air Force, so we kind of like hopped around a little bit. He was an aircraft mechanic, and he was actually commissioned to be the flight test mechanic for Air Force One. So as a result, we got sent to Sacramento. As a kid, we were watching the Jackson 5 cartoon. Of course, we watched James Brown, and we would always be up in front of the mirror, dancing like them and trying to copy them. So that's my early memories of dancing. And when I was in elementary school, I performed in a couple of talent shows, so I was dancing from a young age. We would definitely watch Soul Train as kids coming up. It was like, oh my goodness, people like me are actually dancing on TV. That was like the most incredible thing ever. I'm watching, trying to learn the dances they were doing, and yeah, so it was awesome. But I had no thoughts in my mind that I would ever actually be on Soul Train as a dancer. But it was definitely always a desire in the back of my mind. Oh, it'd be cool to dance on Soul Train and be out there, with everybody. So it was a dream, but I just didn't know how it would even come about. As I was living in LA, my friend Jay King from Club Nouveau, we were best friends growing up since elementary school, and he gave me a call and saying, hey, we're gonna be performing on Soul Train and I want you to be a guest. I get down to the studio and I brought a date with me, and as soon as we got onto the set, first impression was like, oh my goodness, this place is so small, and I guess on TV it just looks huge. And I started to walk out to the dance floor with my date, and the Soul Train coordinator at the time, Eric Kassim, called me and pulled me over and said, you're a guest of an artist, therefore you're gonna have to sit down and watch. And I was like, oh wow, really? This is my chance to shine and I have to sit down? So I'm sitting down with my date, and I kept nudging my date, hey, let's go out there and dance. And she was like, no, I'm scared, I don't wanna go out there. And I was like, oh wow, really? Eventually, I look out on the floor and I see a friend that I actually work with on the dance floor dancing with two women. And I was like, hey. And I made a motion to him and he noticed me, and he made a motion for me to come out on the floor, and I told my date, hey, I'll be right back. So I got out there and started dancing, and I'm making friends and everything. And after that, I got word of when the next taping was gonna be, and I just came out there. And by that time, I kind of like made good friends with my friend who I worked with. He was actually cousins of one of the dancers that had been on the show for a while, Rick Carson. So we became good friends, and I just started coming back, and they just let me on in like I was one of the crew. So I was like, cool. My style was hip, it was trendy. There was actually a store that I would go to at the Delamo Fashion Center where I was always getting my clothes, and they always had like the cutting edge fashion. They really appreciated what I wore because I ended up doing the scramble board about 4 times. Jeffrey. And after a year being on the show, they actually started putting me on the stages, on the risers. Things I would wear 4 to 5 months later, I would see the same clothes I was wearing on various TV shows. So we were definitely like making an impression. I know there was like a newsletter that was going around that picked me as like one of the best dressed dancers on the show. My dance style was definitely street. I wish I would have learned tap dance as a kid, but I just never got that exposure. We were, of course, doing Jackson 5. Of course, when robot or pop locking became a thing, we were like really into that. Of course, when breaking came along, we were into that. So it was kind of like just going with the styles of the various dances that came along. I remember when Vanity came to the set, and the guys just went wild. A lot of testosterone in the studio that day. Meeting Patti LaBelle was definitely an awesome moment. We had a great conversation as she was about to go on and perform. I don't remember the transaction of what we were saying, but she gave me a kiss on the cheek. So I didn't want to wash my face for like a week after that. I performed on the show with BBD. They pulled about 6 or 8 dancers and had us perform in the background with BBD. So that was an awesome moment as well. soon as they called lines, everybody would like rush to get into the line, and of course the dance coordinator would come out and start pulling people out the line that they weren't ready to come into the line, and sometimes Don himself would come out and either pull people out the line or actually put people in the line. It was always an exciting and nervous moment at the same time, because he's like, okay, I'm in the line. Are they gonna pull me out? Or are they gonna move me to the back of the line? Sometimes they'll take people from the back of the line and move them to the front of the line. My first year, I was like, oh man, I wanna do the Soul Train line, but I guess if the dance coordinator didn't feel it was my time to come down the Soul Train line yet, so I would just sit back and watch and just take notes on what they would do coming down the Soul Train line. The very first time I came down the Soul Train line was with Fantasy and Diesel. We did a routine that we had performed as a part of a music video. Then after that, that was my green light for me to basically always get into the line. There was a moment when I came down the line with Leland Ferguson. We made up a routine. We just made it right there on the spot. It was like, okay, you're gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. And we just did it. And that's how a lot of routines actually happened. Unfortunately, some of those routines just didn't work out, and Don was never happy about that, because sometimes, depending on how bad the mess up was, we would have to start the line over. And then sometimes some people would do the wrong thing coming down the line. There was one instance where a guy grabbed his crotch, and Don cut the line and told that guy to leave the studio. So Don definitely didn't play around with the line either. So it was just always something going on with the line. Soul Train definitely led me to opportunities. One was being a extra in House Party 2, because I met Kid from Kid and Play on the set of Soul Train, and he gave me his phone number and he put me in touch with the right people. And I also got an opportunity to be an extra in the 5 Heartbeats. Unfortunately, those ended up on the cutting room floor. I met Jeffrey Daniels, and I was in his music video as well and performed with him on Soul Train. I knew in the back of my mind I wasn't gonna live in LA all my days, although I was having a great time. The company I was working for got bought out by another software company, and they gave me a very lucrative offer to relocate. So I moved back to the Bay Area. And even though I had moved, I was still coming down to the tapings. But after a couple of years, it just became kind of like, okay, I think it's just time for me to just let that go and just concentrate on my career. My overall experience on Soul Train was an amazing experience. I would definitely do it again. Of course, you know, at the time we were dancing on the show, our only compensation was a 2-piece KFC meal and a Springfield soda. And most of the times I ate that, or every once in a while we would go somewhere else like Roscoe's or even Spaghetti Factory at the time. But I would definitely do it again. And heck, I would do it again for the chicken. I might even give them $10. So yes, I would gladly do it again. Gladly do it again. It was an amazing experience.